From the sweeping plains of ancient China to the glittering skylines of its modern cities, a transformation unlike any other in history has unfolded. Once a land defined by its dynasties, emperors, and ancient philosophies, China now stands as a powerhouse of the modern world, a nation that has risen from centuries of turmoil to become a global titan. Across the vast Pacific Ocean, another great power stands tall, the United States of America, a symbol of freedom, democracy, and industrial might. For decades, it reigned as the unchallenged leader of the world. But today, the tides of history are shifting. This is the story of how China rose from the ashes of poverty and isolation to become the world's manufacturing engine, a leader in innovation, and a formidable rival to the United States, reshaping the balance of global power and the destiny of nations. The year was 1978. China was poor, closed off, and recovering from the scars of the Cultural Revolution. Its people worked the land, its economy was stagnant, and the outside world viewed it as a sleeping giant, ancient but weak. Then came one man who changed the course of history, Deng Xiaoping. With quiet determination and a pragmatic vision, Deng uttered a phrase that would redefine the fate of a billion people. It doesn't matter whether a cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice. He opened China's doors to the world. Farmlands were divided among families, allowing peasants to profit from their labor. Foreign companies were invited to invest. Special economic zones rose in places like Shenzhen, once a fishing village, now a futuristic megacity. Within a few years, millions left their rural homes to work in new factories. The nation's heartbeat quickened. Roads, bridges, and ports expanded at an astonishing rate. The old China of rice paddies and bicycles was transforming into a land of smokestacks, highways, and ambition. By the late 1980s and 1990s, China's growth astonished the world. From clothes to toys, electronics to machinery, the label Made in China became a global signature. The nation's economic engine roared to life, setting the foundation for what would become the greatest economic miracle in human history. The 21st century arrived, and China was no longer an emerging player. It was a storm sweeping across global markets. Skyscrapers climbed skyward in cities like Shanghai, Beijing, and Guangzhou, symbols of a nation rushing into modernity. Bullet trains sliced through mountains, connecting distant provinces in record time. The Chinese middle class exploded, numbering in the hundreds of millions, more than the entire population of the United States. Ports like Shanghai and Shenzhen became the busiest on Earth. Ships carried billions of dollars worth of goods daily, feeding the global appetite for Chinese products. Behind this industrial surge was the world's most disciplined workforce, millions of men and women working tirelessly to produce, innovate, and compete. Chinese factories became the arteries of the world economy, supplying everything from smartphones to solar panels. As Western nations began outsourcing manufacturing, China became the workshop of the planet. The profits fueled massive infrastructure projects, highways stretching for thousands of miles, gleaming airports, and entire cities built from the ground up. But this was more than just economics. It was a transformation of national identity. A people once divided by poverty now shared a collective dream, the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. In 2013, President Xi Jinping announced an audacious plan, the Belt and Road Initiative. Inspired by the ancient Silk Road, it aimed to connect Asia, Africa, and Europe through a network of railways, highways, ports, and digital infrastructure. It was more than trade. It was strategy, influence, and vision. Billions of dollars flowed into developing nations. Chinese engineers built bridges in Africa, rail lines in Southeast Asia, and ports in the Middle East. From Kenya to Pakistan, cranes bearing Chinese logos reshaped skylines. Critics in the West called it debt diplomacy, a tool for control through loans. But for China, it was a symbol of global reach, a way to expand its economic footprint and secure vital trade routes. This new Silk Road stretched not only across land and sea, but also through cyberspace, as China laid digital networks, fiber optic cables, and 5G towers in dozens of countries. The Belt and Road Initiative marked China's evolution from a trading nation to a global architect, shaping the world in its own image. guided by a vision of shared prosperity under its leadership. For decades, the world accused China of imitation, copying Western technology, brands, and ideas. But in the last 20 years, that narrative changed. Today, China stands at the frontier of innovation. It leads in electric vehicles, renewable energy, and artificial intelligence. Companies like Huawei, Tencent, and BYD have become global giants. In cities like Shenzhen, innovation never sleeps. AI labs, robotics startups, and fintech firms compete to shape the future. In the skies, drones fill the air. On roads, driverless taxis glide silently. In homes, smart devices powered by Chinese chips connect millions of lives. China now produces more patents annually than any other nation. It dominates in solar and wind energy, reducing its dependence on fossil fuels and positioning itself as a leader in sustainability. Even in space, China's ambitions soar. The Chang'e missions to the moon and the Tiangong space station prove that the nation's reach now extends beyond Earth itself. From imitation to innovation, China's transformation is no longer about catching up. It's about leading the race. Across the Pacific, the United States watches China's rise with both awe and alarm. The once unquestioned global leader now faces a formidable competitor in every field: economy, technology, and military might. Trade wars erupt. Tariffs are imposed. Accusations of cyber espionage fill headlines. The competition shifts from factories to algorithms, from oil to microchips. In the South China Sea, warships patrol contested waters. Fighter jets buzz over disputed islands. In Taiwan, tensions simmer as the U.S. pledges support for democracy, while China vows reunification. It is not an open war, but a struggle for influence, dominance, and ideology. The 20th century's Cold War was fought between capitalism and communism. The 21st century's rivalry is about technology, trade, and the control of information. 5G, semiconductors, artificial intelligence, quantum computing. These are the new weapons of global power, and both giants are racing to control them. To the U.S., China's growing influence challenges the world order built after World War II. To China, it is the rightful restoration of its place at the center of civilization, what it calls the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. China's rise is not only about steel and silicon, it's also about culture and diplomacy. For decades, the United States enjoyed unrivaled dominance. It led in science, military, and global culture. But now Washington faces an unprecedented challenge. China's rapid rise forces the U.S. to rethink its foreign policy, its manufacturing base, and its alliances. American companies depend on Chinese factories. Its markets are intertwined with Beijing's. Yet politically, the two nations are often at odds. The U.S. struggles to balance competition and cooperation, confronting China over trade, technology, and human rights while still relying on it economically. Allies in Europe and Asia face a similar dilemma: to side with Washington or to embrace Beijing's economic promise. The world is no longer bipolar. It's a complex web of interdependence. For the U.S., China is both partner and rival, a nation whose success challenges America's leadership and whose ambition questions the very structure of global power. This is the headache of the 21st century, a rivalry that no nation can ignore, a tension that defines the era we live in. As we look to the future, one question looms large. Can these two giants coexist peacefully? The stakes could not be higher. Together, China and the United States represent over 40% of the global economy and hold the keys to humanity's biggest challenges: climate change, AI governance, and world stability. A conflict between them would be catastrophic, yet cooperation could usher in a golden age of progress. In labs and universities, Chinese and American scientists still collaborate. In trade and technology, the two economies remain deeply linked. Despite political rivalries, their futures are entangled, like two sides of the same coin. Perhaps the answer lies not in dominance, but in balance. Not in confrontation, but in coexistence. History shows that when great powers collide, the world trembles. But when they collaborate, humanity thrives. Two giants now stand on the world stage. One born of revolution and innovation, the other of liberty and democracy. both shaped by struggle, both driven by destiny. In the neon glow of Shanghai and the skyline of New York, in the laboratories of Beijing and Silicon Valley, the future is being written line by line, code by code, dream by dream. Power, ambition, and ideology intertwine. The story of China and the United States is not merely a contest. It is the story of the 21st century itself. And as history unfolds, one truth remains. The rise of one does not demand the fall of the other. The fate of both will shape the destiny of us all. This is the story of how China became so powerful, and why the world's greatest power now finds itself facing its greatest challenge.